This is me back in 2012 during my study abroad program in Germany, and this is my mom in 2023 going to Germany for the first time. She wanted to visit back then, but the timing never worked out. 5 months flew by and I was back home. Fast forward to 11 years later, we were on our way to our first stop, Munich. Side note, if you have the chance to study abroad, do it. The experiences and memories you'll make are something special. Since we arrived in the second half of September, the first thing we did was Oktoberfest. As we made our way to Theresienwiese, we saw many people dressed in lederhosen and dirndl walking alongside with us. As you enter, it looks like a standard fair. You've got food stalls, souvenirs, and roller coaster rides. This part is all family friendly, but the main attraction is inside these massive tents filled with people packed shoulder to shoulder. Everyone's having a great time, singing along to live music, while enjoying copious amounts of beer and food. But mostly beer. We finished our beer and left to explore Munich before we went to Neuschwanstein Castle the next day. It's about a 2-hour train ride from Munich Central Station to Fussen to visit Neuschwanstein Castle. Unfortunately, you're not allowed to film or take photos inside until the very end of the tour, so enjoy this view from the castle and this nearby lake called the Alpsee. Be warned before you decide to hike around this lake, it's about a 3-mile trip. It's a fairly easy hike, but there are some parts where the trail becomes narrow and is covered in uneven stone paths. We spent an entire day in this picturesque area, took the train back, and off to Berlin we went. My friends and family have previously asked me for German food recommendations, which I always didn't know what to suggest because I was a college student in a foreign country with a poor diet. You've got the beer, the bratwurst, the currywurst, schnitzel, and döner, which may be great for a college student on a budget, but in my experience wasn't mind-blowing. While in Munich, the food we had was about what I had remembered, but once we got to Berlin, there were a couple of restaurants that took me by surprise. Was it traditional German food? Probably not, but we both agreed that they were the best tasting meals that we've had so far. We visited the typical tourist sites in Berlin. Brandenburg Gate, Checkpoint Charlie, the Berliner Dome, and the memorial to the murdered Jews of Europe. I faced my fear of heights and rode this helium balloon that lifted me high over Berlin. So I think we're about a kilometer up in the sky. We're pretty high up and it's actually quite terrifying. I think I've always wanted to be in a hot air balloon. And we are extremely lopsided in terms of weight right now. We have 6 other people on that side and just me on this side, trying to balance out the weight. But oh my god, my legs and my feet are extremely tense right now. But my favorite thing to come back to in Berlin has to be Rittersport Chocolate World, because I'm a huge chocolate fiend. Rittersport World has a ton of different flavors not found in the US, ice cream that I didn't know they served, and great souvenir options for friends and family. This is where our trip hit a speed bump, as on the last day in Berlin, I came down with an illness. I spent the last day trying to sweat it out in the hotel sauna and sleeping it off, as the next day, we were off to see the city I studied in, Hamburg. We went around to see the dorm that I used to live in and the campuses where I would attend class. We met up with my friend Ben from Louisiana, who was also my classmate during our program and now lives in Hamburg. He took us to a restaurant down near the Fisherman's Wharf for cuisine that's more traditionally representative of Hamburg or northern Germany. We were feeling better but still a bit under the weather when we hit another speed bump. Months before our trip, I had booked a co-pilot ride in a Mercedes-AMG at the Nürburgring. And right before we were to drive down, I received an email saying that the car would not be ready and they had to cancel my appointment. There were no alternative rides and they could only offer me free entrance to the museum. I contemplated extending our stay in Hamburg because I wasn't sure if we could make the 6-hour drive, and the history of Nürburgring didn't interest me. I wanted that adrenaline-pumping experience driving around one of the most famous tracks in Germany. We decided to press on with going to the Nürburgring, and I'm glad we did because it was one of the most beautiful and fun driving experiences I've ever had. I could go on about how German drivers only pass on the left, how slower drivers will merge right to let others pass, or the unrestricted areas of the Autobahn with no speed limit. No, what I loved was the idyllic drive into Nürburg. You see, Nürburg is a town off the beaten path as it's not too close to major cities. You have Frankfurt to the east about 2 hours by car, or Cologne to the north by an hour. The smooth roads carve through the region that's filled with rolling green hills and forests. We drove around to take in the scenery, stopped for a hike, found some spots to fly the drone, and climbed Nürburg Castle to see a 360-degree view of the area. Hopefully one day, I'll be able to return and have that ride around the Nürburgring. As we neared the end of our trip, the remaining days started to fly by. We stopped by Wetzlar, the hometown of Leica. I felt compelled to visit their museum since I impulse bought a Q2. On our final day, we met up with my friend Ali, who took us to a restaurant in Nuremberg and was maybe the best Bavarian food I've ever had. We wish we had known sooner how beautiful Nuremberg is, as we would have loved to spend more time here. Before we knew it, we were back in Munich, roaming the city for one last time.